Hollywood is losing its grip, and the only way it can be saved is to do more films like Project Hail Mary. That's what Grace Randolph and other media pundits are saying. And now, we're just happy they finally agree with us and what we've been saying for years. It turns out it was all about the audience, not subverting your expectations and giving you exactly what woke Hollywood did not want. It's a beautiful day. It's a great day. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and happy hump day. Hollywood is bumping to the new groove of trying to give you exactly what it is you want in cinemas. And why? Well, because they're going extinct. So they have to do whatever it takes to bring them from the brink of going bye-bye forever. Today we'll talk about it. Click the like button, and if you're not yet subscribed, we're working hard to earn it from you. Grace Randolph is agreeing with us. With you, it's true. Grace is saying that Hollywood has lost its grip, and suddenly the fact that AI is going to empower everybody to make whatever they want to make, whether that's right or wrong, she says it's over for their control. Folks, Project Hail Mary has shaken them to their core. Go ahead, Marv.
I believe Grace said, I'm keeping you ahead of the culture curve.
Oh, Grace, don't copy us that badly. You've got your own things, your own vibes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see if Grace has seen the light.
By a sequel out of India, which had an amazing debut, especially considering that it opened in under 1,000 theaters. And I think, I'll put up the number of theaters Ready or Not 2 was in. I mean, it's really amazing that this film out of India was able to do this. So what's going on? Are we supposed to do old school, or are we doing new? We're breaking down walls. I think that, to me, I'm curious what you think. I think the success of this.
Luckily, we're going to tell Grace what we think. Hang on, Grace. We'll tell you, Grace. Keep going.
Voice is nails on a chalkboard.
And now at super speeds.
Film out of India shows Hollywood losing its grip, and I think that the kind of like the old school films like Project Hail Mary will help. Other countries. And
can we just stop here and say she was almost going to say it, folks? You can look in her eyes and you can see. She is almost going to just say the truth, and then she realizes, I can't say it the way that it's just makes sense. I got to figure out some way to obfuscate this. Guys,
how could you avoid looking at her eyes? She's got more eyeliner on than Jack Sparrow.
Marv, be nice. Behind those glasses, you've got lashes 2 feet long. All right, listen, here's the deal. Grace almost says that movies like Project Hail Mary are going to save theaters. They're going to save Hollywood. They're going to make movies viable again if Hollywood makes them. She can't say that. She's not allowed to say that in her own mind, but it's true. Marv, Project Hail Mary is unscrewing so much of what they've been doing for the past decade. Marv, walk us through why this is, I think, and maybe you think, maybe you disagree, I don't know, but is this the response we expected from Top Gun Maverick that never came to be?
Probably, because Top Gun Maverick, they could chalk up as an anomaly. We now have a lot of proof of concept here going into Project Hail Mary, where, it's following the Top Gun Maverick formula, and that's working. We have things like Top Gun Maverick, like Spider-Man No Way Home, Inside Out 2, things that did not embrace the message or the ideology, things that are just trying to entertain, things that don't get divisive. And those things go on to make $1 billion. And now with Project Hail Mary opening the way it opened, an original IP not connected to any existing franchise, I mean, it can't be denied anymore. And I think the fact that it's not connected to a franchise is what makes it so undeniable, because you can't just say, like with Top Gun Maverick, they were able to say, oh, it's just nostalgia. People just want to see Top Gun again. Oh, it's Spider-Man No Way Home. It's because of all the Spider-Man. It was a spectacle, blah, blah, blah. I think with Project Hail Mary, the fact that it is an original concept, that it's just something that spoke to people in the trailers and the advertising, you can't ignore that. Not even the selective, blindness of someone like Grace Randolph is able to ignore that anymore. And that really says something about where we are as far as Hollywood goes.
It does. Let's listen to a little bit more. As Grace is admitting now, Hollywood has lost its grip. It no longer, and let me explain that too, folks. What is she saying there? Grace is saying that the gatekeeping system the studios have had for a century is over.
Which, by the way, is the exact same thing that Nerdrotic and Eric July and all of them were saying at the Geeks and Gamers panel on Saturday, which is
that's right. Maybe Grace slipped in. Maybe she was wearing a wig, and I don't know. Maybe she's trying to find out what they're saying. Here's more Grace.
Their film industries can do the same, But, Hollywood, that old time glitz and glamour, only the kind of money they can pour into something. I think that's, and also Project Hail Mary opened way bigger than this film, but still, I do think there are cracks in Hollywood's once iron grip on global and particularly North American audiences, which have historically been the biggest audience, although China, of course, has messed that up just a little bit. Although then China closed off and really only watched.
All right. China. Okay, Jonas, she's right because she's agreeing with us. Hollywood has lost full control of the North American box office because who was the YouTuber we just saw make a major profit at the box office in January, Jonas?
Yeah, Markiplier.
That's the beginning, Jonas. That's the step in. And unless Hollywood is willing to make movies that audiences want to see, we're not going to be spoon-fed crap anymore. That's not the way it's going to play.
It's an interesting thing. I've heard good reviews and bad reviews of Markiplier's film, which I think he paid for the rights to it. He tried to get a distributor, and then he eventually just did it himself.
Right.
I think the audience showing up to support a YouTuber, I think it's very special right now. But I think that people who are, and forgive me for saying this again, I have not seen the film when I say this, people that are more experienced storytellers than Markiplier, or maybe better storytellers than Markiplier, are going to come into that space with tools that are unlocking the ability to tell stories like AI or cheaper access to the resources that Hollywood has been able to gatekeep because of the profit model that they have. This is something that Hollywood really needs to get its act together and get back to what's important. Project Hail Mary is a great example of a film that I don't know if it needed to cost as much as it cost, but it's actually a pretty simplified story. This is not something that needed a cast of thousands, didn't have a cast of thousands. It had puppet work and one guy and a lot of visual effects to cover everything else in that film. That's something that AI could probably do if they can just keep the models consistent. The thing that I noticed and I don't mean to get too anecdotal here, is my wife saw a preview for The Sheep Detective, which is a movie that I would think is right up her alley. It's Hugh Jackman. It's a murder mystery about sheep that are trying to solve the murder of their shepherd. And it's cutesy. There's a lot of inoffensive things about it. Looks like it's going to be clean. It's British. So there's that added, oh, look how charming it is. And you know why she doesn't want to go see the film? Because Hugh Jackman is in it. And why doesn't she want to watch a movie with Hugh Jackman in it? Because his personality and his personal relationship choices have shown through the cinema. So I'm going to say that Hollywood right now needs to stop its contempt for the audience and realize that the audience actually cares who makes their films. So if you have a film that's a big tentpole, you better have a cast that appears grateful the entire time, or it better be a mystery and just be such a compelling story that people have to show up to the box office. Gone are the days when we're overly familiar with these people and they say, well, you're just going to show up for the next pile of slop, right?
Culture.
Yeah. No, I agree. And look, and I saw that preview as well, and I wasn't as excited to see that as I should have been. And it wasn't necessarily just because of Hugh Jackman. It was because it lacks appeal to me. It's going to be directed at ladies that, are taking their kids to the film. There's not going to be, a march of dudes going to see it. And again, a lot of films are demographically driven. But what's interesting is that, and Grace fails to mention when she even mentions Project Hail Mary, is it's singularly driven in a story that for at least, the first 40 minutes is around one guy and his loneliness and his singular pursuit, despite not knowing why, of saving his planet. And, he takes comfort and solace in making this friendship thing work with Rocky, the alien. And it's you don't even need another person. Ryan Gosling delivers on a level I really didn't believe I didn't think he had in him. And it will make him a movie star. But at the same time, the story works because of his ability to be a believable, real human being in 3 dimensions, going through the emotional gambit and, able to bond with a rock. So I just have to say I think that Hollywood needs to return to being story based, story focused, and in the case of something like Project Hail Mary, hero journey driven. And you can do that with female characters as well. And we used to do that if you take a look at the films like Alien and Aliens and all those. But you have to take into account again, making a compelling story the center of anything you're trying to do in cinema. And that's why Project Hail Mary is going to be a reference point going forward.
I was talking to somebody who knows what's coming in AI over the last weekend. Managed to slip away and have a conversation. And one of the things they said is that there's an anticipation that by the end of the year that video generation abilities are going to be at least 20 times where they are right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if it's 20x, then it may actually be better than anything that Hollywood can make. And that's why they're losing their grip. That's why they have to go back to Project Hail Mary, is because it's practical effects. People still can't do that. That is something Hollywood. And so this is a very strange thing that AI may force Hollywood to go back to practical effects. But the other fun thing about it is Hollywood is either going to have better storytelling than average Joes all across the country, or the average Joes will win because storytelling will reign supreme. And that is why they're losing their grip.
That's really the important thing about movies. This is the thing that I always go back to. A movie is like a magic trick. If people are not mystified by how you did it, they don't care as much. If they say, oh, it was CGI, then people go, okay. And then they move on. They want to be amazed by what's on screen. They want to know the story behind the story. They want to look at the multiplane camera from Disney Animation, and they want to look at, oh, you did this with 24 pictures a second? How did you draw 24 pictures a second and give it the illusion of life? Oh, did you know that in this scene, Tom Cruise did all of his own stunts? If you take away the fact that Tom Cruise actually did most of the things that they're showing on screen in the Mission Impossible movies, they're just another movie. And no one really cares about that. So again, Hollywood needs to get back to the idea of wonder and the narrative around the movie. That is the thing that sells tickets. That's why Ryan Gosling showing up and saying, it's not that we deserve you coming to the theater. We need to make something that draws you back into the theater. That's a narrative that everyone can get behind. He's very smart in all of this. I would also recommend that he and the fact that Eva Mendes seem to have a long-running relationship where they have an agreement on how to parent their kids. That's a strong thing that if he was in The Sheep Detective, my wife would want to go see that movie. So I don't mean to go back to the same anecdotes over and over again, but really people care about how their movies are made. If it's just the visuals, okay, yeah, that's great. But no one talks about, other than, hey, that was a cool story. When people say, hey, there was a Masters of the Universe film that came out in the 1980s, they talk about why it was that most of that movie took place on Earth. It's a different story if you say, we got everything we wanted because we pressed the button to make it everything we wanted. They get bored and they move on. But if there was a story behind the making of it, that's the entire reason we care about the Disney company. The entire reason that we care about Walt Disney Animation Studios is because Walt bet the farm on making Snow White. Why do we not talk about Pinocchio? Why do we not talk about Bug's Life? Because they're the second effort. They're in fact, in many ways, from a technical standpoint, both of those films are superior to the films that came before it from those studios. But the story wasn't there in that same way. The story of how movies are made is very important, or the movie itself has to be superior. No one cares about Doctor Strange 3 or 4 right now because they said, well, in the middle of shooting the other ones, we got at the green screen and Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't even know if she's in this one. It sounds like they're bored. And so the audience is bored too.
Marva, I'll go to you for the final word on this. You know, we're at the point now where Grace essentially agrees with us. And, you know, we could gloat, we could take the victory lap, but I think a deeper dive is more important than that. Now that Grace agrees, now that we all are on the same page that Hollywood is losing its grip, my question is, what happens to them if the ability to tell stories at scope and scale is disseminated all over the country and the world? Marv, is Hollywood the next Detroit? Or do they modify? Or maybe celebrities just turn into desperate influencers all over the internet. I don't know. What do you think happens next?
You got to think they're going to start trying to infiltrate new media more than they're already doing. They have to get to where the eyes are. They're not pulling people back in. I think that the push toward practical effects is actually going to be helpful. But there's also there's this idea that they will do nothing but dig their heels in the sand and double down, because of course they will. They always do. So I actually don't have faith that anything is going to change on a large scale, but I think you will have more variety.
Okay, variety is the spice of life, unless it's the trade, in which case it's one inch above the pond scum that is TMZ. Sorry, variety, we don't like you. Helping Hollywood produce a product that you want to consume, that's what we do each and every day, folks. And this time, it's time to, well, say goodbye. We know, but don't cry. No, for we will have more videos on the way. We love to bring those videos and that information. And by the way, if you'd like even more, consider going to the Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. It's where we put out stuff exclusively there that we simply can't put out in other places for whatever reason, be it because it's too spicy or because, well, perhaps we're working to corroborate it. But you can find out things early and first over there. Folks, we surely have had a great time spending time with you. Consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.